Good afternoon, fellow Plexers. As mentioned in other videos, I'm running Plex on a little NUC running Unraid without its own network attached storage. So I wanted to do a test video to show you how to set up Unraid on a system to hold your media and to run Plex server in a Docker container. So last night I set up Unraid on an old Dell Optiplex, a little one. All I have in it is a tiny NVMe drive and a 1 gig laptop rusty hard drive. So this video will not show you how to set up parity under Unraid or even how to use a shared cache pool. We'll just have a single drive as a cache drive. But going to the shared cache pool isn't that hard, and from my use of Unraid for the last year on my NUC and last night's experience installing it on this Dell Optiplex and then today playing around with Plex server, I don't think anything is really too hard to learn. So what we're going to do is just show you a few things, and then I'm going to start fresh to show you how to get a basic Unraid storage going and a Plex server going for that storage. So right now you'll see this is an old i5 7500 CPU. It doesn't have the best iGPU, and there's no parity because I only have one drive, and it's just a old laptop hard drive, a rusty hard drive. If we click into main, here's the hard drive model, here's the model of the NVMe drive, and for cache, for a basic server, you don't need a lot of room. My NUC that points back to my media on my Synology NAS has a pair of 500 gigabyte drives, one NVMe and one SSD, and that's in a RAID 1 configuration, so I've got redundancy, or the protection of redundancy there. This is just a generic flash drive I pulled out of a drawer. I might buy a quality Samsung drive, a little stubby one, something that's better than just something cheap you can buy anywhere. And what else did we do? I created a user, just my own name with a simple password, and that gets me in to the network. I'm running Fedora right now for this test recording. I normally run Pop OS, but that gets me in. Let's see, where am I? I don't have any access to my Unraid NUC because there's no reason to have access, but I do have access to this test install, and here's some media that I copied over, but I'm going to nuke all of this and just start fresh. And then I also created a share, the media PD share, and I had to enable NFS to access the files under Linux. So I'm flying without a net. Let's start fresh. Someplace there's a new config option. I probably should have looked for this first. Alright, give me a second and I will find that and get back to the video. Well, I should have put my glasses on. Here's a new config. So I'll click that. And, okay, so the array must be stopped. That's this button here. Preserve current assignments, none. And we'll hit apply. And what do we have here? Oh, the array hasn't stopped yet. All right, let me come back once that's stopped. All right, the array stopped down here. And again, most of my videos are not scripted. I kind of fly without a net because I figured that if I get into trouble, having someone watch me solve my issue will be better for them than not. Alright, so we have nothing assigned here. So you go to the Unraid website, you use their installer. I had to boot into Windows. It's just easier to create the flash drive, and I'm on a trial. Didn't have to even do anything besides just start it. If I want to continue this, I'll have to buy Unraid, but I already have an Unraid license for my little NUC. So this is what we've got. Nothing to work with right now. We've got 2 devices that are unassigned. If I go over to the main tab, I have a whole list of things that I can assign to. Again, we're not working with any parity drives. I don't have another connection to show that in this little device. So disk 1 I will assign to the rusty 1 terabyte hard drive. Pool devices, I'll choose my remaining NVMe. And let's see, where do I go next from here? I do remember that this temperature had to be adjusted, that this was, I'm sorry, not that temperature. This temperature was running too high, so I'll have to figure out how to adjust that. So let me just hit start. If I go back to dashboard, we have an array and we have a cache drive. If I go back to main and click into the cache drive, everything's all set up. Now we're missing a step. When I first did this, I had to format it. There was an option at the bottom of the page to format the drives. They're already formatted, so it must be they're staying formatted. I didn't know that would happen. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. But my Plex container that I had set up is no longer there. And let's see what's on this. Well, this will save me some time. Because this was already formatted, my media is still here, so I don't have to copy that back over and wait for it for this tutorial. And it looks like I still have my user, so that's not fresh, but that's easy. You just add a user, type the name, description if you want, password, and let's see my share. My media share is still here also. So I guess this isn't as fresh of a start as I would have hoped. So if you go into settings, you'll have to go into NFS, choose yes, and apply. By default, SMB is already set for those of you using Windows. So let me just add another share. So leave everything default and just add share. Any user you create is going to have access to that. So if I go back to main, and now I go into the disk with a little square with the arrow coming out of it to browse, that folder is now there. So let me go into my Fedora file manager. So I don't have any access to my Unraid NUC because there's no file stored there. And if I need to do something to back up a container folder of Plex, I can use the Unraid interface connected to my network share on the Synology NAS to copy it back to my NAS. I just never gave myself access to browse that NUC. This tower is differently. I'll be, if this was a real Plex install, you'd be moving files from a desktop computer over to your Unraid server possibly. You'd rip on your computer, copy them to the Unraid media folder. So I've already logged in with my username of Albert and my simple password, but I don't have access right now. The domain comes up as Samba. I don't know why. Click connect and I'm in. I can see my libraries. Everything here is public domain except for this one Blu-ray rip that I've made of A Christmas Story. So that's basically the setup. It's not too hard to get a shared folder going, and let's talk about that for a minute. The reason to use network attached storage is that you can have all your media in one shared folder. So I use a shared folder called Media PD for Media Public Domain. I have the same setup on all my test videos of an install of Plex under Windows or Ubuntu or Debian or something like that. And then I use sort folders. I have a sort folder for my movie libraries. Let me bring in my file manager window. It's easier to see. So here's the main network share. And this would be for a Star app setup. It would be named something else, and you'd enter complete, incomplete, and watched folders there. Then at the same level, I have a sort folder for different movie libraries, a 4K one, documentary, kids, and the main one. It's not often you need multiple music libraries, but this is kind of set up just in case you wanted to add another one. So there's the actual music library there, and maybe I could have a kids music if you wanted things split in two. And then my TV library sort folder with a TV kids and a TV main actual library folder. Now a setup like this is perfect for Sonar. So now one instance of Sonar can have multiple root paths in it to then add shows to 3 different specific libraries if you want. I do that with my own Sonar setup to grab shows or episodes for 2 different Plex libraries. So this nested folder structure enables what the trash guides call atomic moves. And this is important because the default container setup for Plex, when we get to it, isn't of this mindset. And I'll show you how to use one path instead of a separate path for a movie library, a separate path for a TV show library, and a separate path for music. And this way I can add in other libraries like and other video. So you can expand your collection and the number of libraries you have by using a path from the Docker container to just the one shared folder for all your Plex media library. It simplifies things. Okay, so where am I? So other things I had to do is under settings, under display, wherever that is, I changed from Celsius to Fahrenheit someplace, right here. Someplace else I set the time, which is right here, because it wasn't set for Eastern time and I'm in New York State. what else did I do? I adjusted the parameters on my hard drive because it was too warm with the default settings, and that's the last thing I need to find before we go into the Plex container. Well, I don't know where that is right now, but I'm not going to let that stop me. So let's go into the container. So the Docker tab shows the container I have. I'm going to remove that. And let me get my cheat sheet open off to the side. Well, actually that didn't help me. Let me do this. Let me pull up my actual Unraid server off screen, and I'll go into, well, I'll put it on screen, go into the Docker setup, because I am going to want to steal something from in here, and that is my extra parameter. This, which I'll copy, will enable the container to access the iGPU in the Intall processor. This creates a RAM drive. It uses 16 gigabytes of my total 32 gigabytes of memory on my regular system. I'm not going to set that up. Well, I guess I could set that up. I don't know how functional it'll be if I use half of 16 gigabytes for a RAM drive, but we can simulate that. What did I do? Okay, so that's just my cheat sheet. And this would be changed to that to use half of the 16 gigabytes. And of course it's got the no-healthcheck thing too, and that was from, I got that help from, on YouTube. I can't think of the name of the group that puts out nice Unraid videos. It's not Space Invaders. It'll come to me. Alright, so that's all I need from my old Unraid. So we'll go into apps. And the first time you do this, you have to enable the community store. And once that's done, you can just search for Plex. Now, I've always used the Linux servers repository on my Synology NAS, and I actually moved that container to my Unraid install. On the NUC. So that's what we'll install today. So you want to click the basic view to advanced and drop down and click show more settings. So let me grab my extra parameter and we'll add this here. Then we'll drop down and I'm going to get rid of this extra path for movies, and then I'm going to edit the path for TV. Only I'm going to change this to media. And I'm going to change this to Plex Media. So what's important is the host path. If I just click on it, I'm going to see the folder structure on this Synology NAS off the regular array, the regular hard drive. So this is what I want to get to. And I don't want to go any further because the container will then have access to everything inside. I could have just pointed to this for TV, and then instead of deleting the movie host path, I could have pointed that to here, but then I would have needed to create 3 more paths, one to music, one to other, and one to photo. This one path does it all. So the last thing to change is MNT to cache. And let me just double check that, because I am not an Unraid expert. If it was a Synology NAS, I'd probably be able to tell you blindfolded. Okay, so I did do that wrong. I'm glad I checked. Users cache. Mount cache. Well, let's go with mount cache app data. Oh, I'm screwing things up. Sorry. Okay, let's fix this. I'm in the wrong section. Okay, so I was messing this up, and this is what I want.
Ring, ring, ring.
All right, let me pause that.
Ring, ring, ring.
Do you want to upgrade your cable services? Okay, so where were we? We are doing the app data. So this has to change to cache and not uppercase. Alright, so that's all we need to do. That'll point the new container creation to the cache drive. Let me just double check this. Because I screwed it up, I just want to do it fresh again. Okay. So now we can just apply the settings, and this will take a little bit. So I'm just going to let it run so you know how long it takes on your end. And of course, a faster system, it would speed it up. My 11th Gen i5 NUC creates a container a little bit faster for the first time. And let me, while this is going, I can fill the time this way. So I have this Plex Streams add-on going, so if anyone streams off my server, it shows up here under Unraid. So no one's streaming now. It's a good time to show you how to update a container. These are the containers I'm running, and I was trying to fool around with a test threadfin container, and I'm going to get rid of that because I see there's an official container now. So I just clicked on it, I'm choosing remove, am I sure, yes, delete. So right here you can check for updates with any containers you have running. Now this isn't really a major update to Plex. Plex isn't going to notify you of an update yet, but it is a newer container, so it says update ready. So I could choose update all, or I could just click here apply update. Yes, update it. And it looks very similar to pulling the container for the first time. And you'll see how it a little bit speedier under this system than the 7th gen I'm working with. So Plex is just going. If you need to stop the container, you click on it, choose stop, restart, whatever you want to do. So Dockers are very easy under Unraid. Alright, so the command finished successfully. And now it says installed. And if I go to my Docker tab on this test install, there it is. Now if you click it, you can open the web UI, but chances are it might be doing background maintenance the first time. It's not here, so I can sign into it. And Plex recognizes this IP address as a new server under my account. So I'm going to name this tower-unraid. I will uncheck this. I have not forwarded the port for this IP address in my router settings. I have the remote access video on my YouTube channel that's easy to follow to get remote access going. So once it gets past this stage, we can add a few libraries. Okay, so let me add 2 or 3 movie libraries, a couple TV show libraries, and a music one. So I'll click on movies, and this will be the default library. Browse, and see this Plex Media? If we go back to the container, let me just edit it. I don't have to stop it. That's right here, the container path Plex Media. If I edit it, that's the name I picked here, so that's what I'm going to see in Plex's interface as the path to all my media. So I'll click into Plex Media, and now I want my main movie library, so I hit the movie library sort folder and then the main movie library, and I add. So I'll do that a couple more times. Sorry. Advanced settings. I'll only do this once, but I always set minimum collection size to 2. Add library. So now I'll add another movie library. Next, the same alias, my same movie library sort folder, and now the 4K library. Next, browse the alias, the sort folder for movie libraries, and now the kids folder. Add library, let's do a couple TV shows. This will be the default one. Same alias. Now I'm going into the TV library sort folder, choosing my main library with just 3 shows in it, all public domain episodes. Add one more TV show library. This one will be the kids, and I skipped a step on the last one. Next, browse the alias, the library folder, sort folder, the kids library. And on the other one, I should have went to the advanced settings. I only named from the TVDB, so I make that change by default. So I can go in here and apply that afterwards. So now we'll add that small music library. The same alias for the container. Now the music sort folder and the music library with just those 3 artists. Now next, and I'm done. So this is my main server, so I need to switch to just those libraries. So here's the servers I have going. My main server, a test Docker container on both my Synology NASs. This is the Ubuntu 24.04 server that's not running right now, and this is the new Tower Unraid server. So as long as I'm there, I can go down to libraries and see what I've just added. So everything added properly. So then if I wanted to view it, let's start the HTPC client app up. And let me show you a nice feature of this. Let me go up to my username. If I reset home customization, sorry, I did something too quickly. I can change between servers. So let me change to the new Tower one. And now all I'm going to see are those libraries I just added. And if I wanted more, I could go to my other libraries and pin something to this client app. So if I go into this, let me put this on the screen, get things side by side. And we'll go to the activity of the dashboard. You'll see we're detecting intros and stuff like that. And if we go back to Docker, you'll see that my processor is actually quite busy. But it won't be once all the intros are detected. So we can still serve up media while that's going on. So I have different versions of Big Buck Bunny. So let me just play this 1080p MPEG-4 version. So let's check something. The transcoding is already enabled and it's set for auto, but the only option to use is the HD Graphics 630 iGPU in this older 7th gen chip, and I've just saved that change. While I'm here, let me sign into this server automatically. Alright, so we'll start Big Buck Bunny again, and we'll send it into a transcode. We'll give it a minute to catch up, and you'll see right here we have the HW, meaning it's hardware transcoding off the iGPU, which means our little entry in the container was all we needed to do to enable this. Let's see, advanced view, and the extra parameters was just this device equals device DRI line. Now, I am not recommending what I did here for a server with only 16 gigabytes of RAM. But if you're running 32 gigabytes of RAM or 64, use half of it for your temp directory for transcoding. So that is about it. What else can I do? Well, let me see if off the cuff I can figure out how to add this Plex Streams, because that's pretty cool. And I think it's just one of my installed apps. Oh, this is what we can do too. We can add the Intall GPU top, the GPU stats, and the Plex Streams. Now I added this NUT networking UPS tool. It's been superseded by a newer version I haven't changed over yet, but this allowed me to connect my Synology NAS, which is hooked to my UPS, to then extend the shutdown commands to my Unraid NUC. So if I lose power, the NUC and the NAS are both plugged into the battery side of the UPS, and when the Synology NAS realizes that it's going to shut off after a couple minutes, it will send a command to my Unraid NUC to shut down also, and everything's set to come back on when power is restored. So it's kind of foolproof. So that's something to work with if you have a UPS. I'm connected through my Synology NAS. I'm not sure how I would set it up with just a UPS and just an Unraid server, but somebody else has figured that out. So let's see about setting up these two. All right, so we'll go to App, and we will do Intall-GPU. Oh, I'm not typing any place worthwhile. Install that. Oh, I guess it's complete. I'm sitting here foolishly waiting. And we will install this next. All right, so we have this all set as an additional requirement. So I'm never really sure when some of these are done. And then what's left? Plex Streams. And of course you may want to install Tautuli and set that up too. Okay, so I'm going to work on both screens to see if I remember what I need to do before I have to pause this to figure out how to do it. So user utilities, GPU, let's change this to Fahrenheit. Let me look on my other server. So that's a match for the settings. Well, value must be equal to, well, I have 1,000 on my value must be greater than or equal to. Oh, I think I know what I'm doing. Wrong. I need to select that. That's what I'm looking for. Right here. Now I can apply. Oh, damn. Alright, so let's just put 2,000 here. I don't have it on my regular setup. Okay, so let's see if that's enough to get things where we need them to be. Let me just take a look on my other screen. Alright, so the GPU line is loaded. So let's force a transcode over here. Alright, we do have a transcode forced, and you'll see that we start to see some activity over here. Let's take it out of transcode. And the activity went away. So we do have a representation of what's going on with the iGPU and how hard it's working. So let's see what happens with the 4K movie I have. I'll only play a little bit of it before the movie actually starts. I don't want to get in trouble with a YouTube copyright claim. I did rip this movie myself. Okay, so let's show Plex 2. So it's a HDR10 HEVC movie. We're direct playing. It's 162 megabits per second, or the bit rate is being reported as 162 megabits per second. All right, so let's go back over here, and then we'll put this into transcode, and then unpause it. 4 megabits per second, 720p. Alright, so we see we've got some activity over here. It's a little bit more than the other transcode. And in Plex, you see even this 7th gen HD iGPU, it's not a UHD graphics iGPU, only an HD, can still transcode this higher bit rate HEVC HDR 4K media. And then what are we looking for now? The last thing is to figure out how to get the Plex Streams going. So I'm not going to bore you. Let me pause that. Let's see how long it takes me to figure out how to add that to the new Unraid setup, and then we can call this a video. Alrighty, I think I found the secret sauce. So I'm going to, well, I went back into apps. I clicked installed apps. It's just not as responsive as my normal server on the better processor. So then I'll click under Plex Streams Actions and then Settings. And this is what you need to do, is put your Plex claim token in. So instead of trying to blur this, let me take this off screen. Well, you know what? I'm not going to be able to show this without having to blur, and I don't want to blur. So let me see if I can prep something else. Alright, so this is my actual Unraid Plex server. So when you put your Plex claim token in this window, it will connect to your whole Plex account, and then I learned if I just chose this first option for my regular server, I got duplicate streams in the Plex stream on my main dashboard. If I just chose the remote one, everything worked fine. So let me go to my dashboard. Let's see. So So we won't actually set this up, but we'll show you how it works. Well, not going to work that easy with this, but here's my Plex stream. So let me go to the HTPC client app and stop this and go find a public domain movie on my or TV show on my regular server, and that will be Life with Elizabeth. So let's find that. Okay, so I can safely play one of these episodes. And you'll see it's now showing under Unraid that started off my server. So this is kind of fun to have. It's not overly important, but it is what it is. So I appreciate you watching, and I wish my test had gone better. I wish when I started fresh with a new config in Unraid, it had actually wiped the drives. It would have taken a little bit longer. But I think Unraid is a real good platform if you want to have rated network storage for your Plex server, and you don't want to buy a Synology or QNAP NAS. Now, I love my Synology infrastructure. If my DS1520 shit the bed tomorrow, I'd immediately buy a 1522. I could migrate my drives right in. It wouldn't take me that long to be set back up, just like nothing. But if Synology went out of business, completely gone, the person I follow on YouTube, Will, at the Space Rex channel, always has a lot to say about security under a QNAP NAS. I'm not sure if I'd replace my Synology NAS with a QNAP if Synology disappeared overnight. If that happened, I'd build an Unraid rig. But I love the Synology ecosystem. All my media backs up to my older DS1019. They both have a DX517 expansion box connected to them. I'm not ditching Synology anytime soon for Unraid, but Unraid's pretty sweet all by itself. So my warning is, if you're going to do a full trash guide setup, follow their setup. They have a warning against following Space Invader's videos because his videos use a lot of default settings that will break atomic moves. And I've never watched one of his videos, so I'm not being critical of him specifically. I'm just relaying information that the Trash Guides has set as a warning. Because with atomic moves, you want everything in one shared folder. That way, if your acquisitions come into this folder, when one of the R programs renames it from this folder to move to wherever it's supposed to be, like Sonar would move a TV episode into this folder, it's instantaneous. If the acquisition folder, if the acquisition goes into a different shared folder, say I had another shared folder called Media Acquisitions, or maybe Media Usenet, or Media Torrents, and then the R's had to rename it and move it from one shared folder to another, that's not a real move. That's a copy from one to the other, and when it's finished copying, the original gets deleted. Now the same thing really happens within one network shared, but it happens so fast it appears to be instantaneous. So if you're adding something like Modern Family, I don't know, there's 11 seasons of that or whatever there is, 22, 23 episodes per season. Well, Sonar will be chugging along, bringing the media into an acquisition folder, and then everything gets backed up as the second file waits for the next file to transfer across your local network. When it's instantaneous, things just complete and complete and complete and complete, instead of waiting for that long bar to happen as that file transfer takes place. So I'm sure there's a lot of great information in a Space Invader video, but you don't need to follow everything, and you don't actually need to follow the template, just like we did not here. We got rid of the extra unneeded path. You don't need a separate path for movies and a separate path for TV shows and a separate path for music, other videos, and photo. So this, I think, is a better setup. And is it Ibracorp? That's who I got the extra parameters info from, and that was a very helpful video for me to watch to get Plex going under Unraid. So I can talk too much. If you have any trouble, reach out to me on YouTube. Find me in the Plexaholics Facebook support group. Find me in Plex Pals. I'll do my best to help you along, but Unraid is really a nice experience. You can play around with it on any old hardware, but of course, for good transcoding, get yourself at least an 8th gen processor. 8th through 10th gen processors will usually all have the same iGPU. They're going to have the UHD graphics 630 iGPU. This older 7th gen, it's HD graphics. With 11th gen or newer, you have to stay away from the F model processors. There's no iGPU. And the last thing I'll show you is that a mobile processor, like what I have in my NUC, the Iris Xe graphics is as good as the comparable desktop. I think it's the UHD graphics 730 or 770 chip. This mobile iGPU is just as good. This is a little powerhouse. So, thanks for watching. Happy plexing and good luck with an Unraid build if that's where you're headed.